Hello, here we are, gamers. The final episode of The Last of Us Season 1. It's been fun. It's been a very fun time. This season really does hold up after the couple years that it's been released. I have not rewatched it until doing this series, and I have enjoyed every episode of the season thoroughly. It's been quite the journey. I know there's a lot of hubbub online about this series, but I must say it's a really good show. I do recommend. It does the game justice. Yes, Ellie does not look like Ellie. Also, Joel not look like Joel? I don't know why everyone still gets upset over Ellie, but Joel is standing right there, and my argument is that he doesn't really look a whole lot like Joel either. But everyone loves Pedro Pascal, so he gets a write-off there. Anyways, I do like both performances. They have both done a fantastic job with what they have been given. Their acting has been great throughout this season. I swear if the game didn't exist, the series would be praised out of this world. I won't mention how adaptations work again, because I've said it damn near every time I brought this up. Pedro Pascal was a weird choice at first, but I grew to love his portrayal of Joel. His take on the character was great in my opinion. I like the more emotional Joel, a more vulnerable Joel, a Joel that would do well on the TV screen rather than a video game. I do think Pedro is a perfect casting for how they portrayed Joel, for how the story went. My dream cast, Hugh Jackman, obviously, wouldn't have fit that role as well. Hugh Jackman would have definitely been a perfect, video gamey version, that Hulk of a mass murderer in the apocalypse, that kind of vibe. Hugh Jackman would have been great there. But that's not what we got. The more I sit with it, the more it makes sense to me that we have a Pedro Pascal for this very specific role. And Ellie does have some emotional weight, unlike what some voices have said online. Bella Ramsey can act, and she did a great job with what she was given. I like her portrayal of the character. One of the most exciting parts of the show, in my humble opinion, the best parts of the show, in fact, were when it diverged from the source material, the moments where it started to do its own thing. The two cold opens, Bill, Kansas City, these were all very much highlights for me. Not just because they were new, but the writing truly shined here. They wanted to do their own thing. It's kind of like the opposite to what happened to Game of Thrones. You know, whenever Game of Thrones started to do its own thing, we're like, what the fuck is this? This is horseshit. You know, it's even worse in Game of Thrones, in the Game of Thrones condition, because when they started to do their own thing, they had, 5 seasons to work off of, you know? We only have a singular game here. It's very silly. But the suspense of the cold opens, the romantic love story from Bill, they were all truly great moments in this show. One small moment that I really loved was that old Native American couple that Joel and Ellie held up earlier. I loved that moment. It's very small, very quick, but it still holds fresh in my memory. One of the bigger complaints that I do have for this show is how they changed the zombies, right? They radically changed the zombies from the game, and this is very nerdy, I know, but it's one of the smaller complaints, and I think I should be fair and bring it up, even if it's small like this. They radically changed how the zombies worked from the game, and didn't really do a whole lot with it. It left me a little confused. I understand that they needed to change the zombies in some ways because we don't want our characters to be having gas masks on throughout the entire show. I do understand that, but they didn't really do a whole lot with the change besides that. It felt like a very much hey, this is what we're doing because it's restricts us if we don't, and it feels like a very much of a writing problem rather than something to actually enhance the story. We only really see how the tendrils play out in episode 2, and after that we don't really get a whole lot of zombies to begin with. And I don't have a problem with no zombies in a zombie show. I'm not watching this because it's a zombie show, okay? If I wanted to watch a zombie show, I'd watch Walking Dead. That's the perfect zombie show out there. This is a very thoughtful story. I don't want a zombie show. That being said, I wanted a little bit of the tendrils popping up every now and again. You know, I wanted to see a little bit of the tendrils because having like this creepy hive mind is kind of cool. That being said, without spoiling too much, they do bring it up again in season 2 at least. So I will say that. In terms of how I feel about the rest of the story, this is like the biggest nitpick in the world. I will admit that. But I think I should be fair and bring up my complaints. I don't like what they did to the zombies this season. Anyways, let's get this finale going, gamers. Alright? We start this episode with a lady running in a forest. She appears to be pregnant. The infected are heard from the distance. As she desperately tries to get away, she arrives at a farmhouse. She calls out for people that were presumably supposed to be there, but nobody's home. This lady, by the way, is played by Ashley Johnson, who plays Ellie in the video game. I do love how they have put in so many voice actors from the game into the show in some way. I love that. I love that so much. I can't really think of any other show that has done that. This woman is in the worst situation possible in the apocalypse, being chased by zombies while giving birth. She pulls out a knife to defend herself, the same knife Ellie uses in the current timeline. The infected sadly broke through the door, and in the encounter, she is bit. Also, in the intensity of the encounter, she pushed out that baby. This baby is Ellie. That lady was a firefly. Marlene turns up, and it's revealed that they were good friends, actually. That's the connection Marlene has had with Ellie. That's why she put Ellie into Fedra school to protect her, to keep tabs on her even. Marlene has to kill Ellie's mom. We cut back to present time. Joel calls out to Ellie. She seemingly doesn't hear him. She's spacey, distant. Joel, on the other hand, has opened up to her. He tries to make light out of a card game that he found in a can of food. He talks about finding a guitar. He has now fully opened up to Ellie. They have flipped roles at this point. Ellie isn't the same after David. Seeing how evil the world can be, true evil, even if technically nothing happened to her, still affects her. She's traumatized. David left his mark on her, what evil can do to people. It's sad to see Ellie like this. Not her bubbly, fiery self that we've seen all season. This closed-in, more introverted self is very sad to see. They're getting close to their destination, though. They finally made it to Salt Lake City. Joel asks Ellie to hold his rifle for a sec. A little redundant to make a point out of this. Once again, how comfortable he is with her. You know, at the beginning of the season, for a while, throughout there until like Kansas City, there was no guns being tossed around towards Ellie. If you really wanna, if you really dense, this does show how comfortable he is with her, how much he trusts her. But it also shows how uncomfortable she is now. She doesn't look comfortable in her own skin. It's really sad to see her like this. It's tragic to see Joel finally ready to completely open up to her, but this poor girl is traumatized. They make their way through the city, having to navigate through a building. Then we get the scene. The scene most people reminisce on when thinking of The Last of Us. The giraffe scene. Oh. Joel boosted Ellie up to a ledge in order to grab a ladder. When she gets up there, however, she gets fixated on something and drops the ladder. When Joel finally gets up there, he sees her with a giraffe. They have a scene that feels like right out of Jurassic Park. They feed the giraffe. It's touching. There's still beauty in this very bleak world. To me, the giraffe symbolizes like hope, like life, hope in life. Life. I almost said finds a way. Life moves on, you know, even if people have abandoned these cities, animals, nature, they still move on, even if people aren't really around anymore. It's kind of beautiful. They have a conversation about their journey. Joel suggests going back to Tommy's, forget the whole damn thing. Ellie says their journey can't be for nothing, though. Ellie says,
I'll follow you anywhere you go.
They keep going and end up in an old army camp. Joel opens up about his scar. The scar that I still have trouble fucking noticing. He admits that it was caused by him. He's the one who shot and missed. He flinched at the very last second. After Sarah, he didn't see the point anymore. Ellie thinks that she understands and says time heals all wounds, I guess. But Joel, he says,
It wasn't time that did it.
and Ellie realizing the enormity of what he's saying. That's huge for a kid. For a kid to hear a parent like leans on them in that way. When you're a kid, it's all about you, you know? It's probably the most narcissistic part of your life. You know, when you're a kid, you don't know anything. It's all about you. It's who you look up to. It's what the parent can do for you. Having a child hear what they mean to a parent, it's huge for a kid to hear that. And you see that in Ellie's face. I'm being tongue-in-cheek when I say narcissistic, by the way. It's not. I don't actually mean all kids are clinically diagnosed with a disorder. But in some way, a lot of kids do have that personality trait because it is all about them. And for the right reasons, you know? They're children. They need to be taken care of. As they start their walk again, a flashbang follows between their feet, and we make a hard cut. Joel in the hospital. Marlene is there. Ellie is nowhere to be seen. Joel asks to see Ellie. Marlene says she can't. She's being prepped for surgery. The doctor they have thinks if they sample the cordyceps inside of Ellie, they could make some sort of cure. Though Joel is a smarty and knows that cordyceps grows inside the brain. The surgery will most likely kill her, and Joel is obviously furious at this. Marlene tells her men to escort Joel out. If he tries anything, shoot him. Now, obviously, by this point in the show, I am very curious on how they were gonna do this section. They have sneakily gotten themselves out of any combat scenes throughout this story so far, but what's about to happen is something you can't really avoid. So I was very curious on what they were gonna do, and I think they did it well. On the way out, Joel gets the one up on the men escorting him. He kills them without mercy. What happens next is a montage of Joel killing every damn person in there. It's the closest we get to video game Joel. Any person who stood in his way is dead. He completely disassociates, which is something we've seen a couple times already throughout the show. The only thing that mattered to him in that moment was Ellie. No one was gonna stop him, even the people that were trying to surrender to him. He just shoots them down without a second thought. He completely disassociates. The only thing that he cared about was making sure Ellie gets out of there safe, and he does finally make it to the operating room. A brave doctor stood up to Joel holding a knife against him, but Joel didn't fucking care. He just saw him as another obstacle, and he shoots him instantly. On the way out with an unconscious Ellie, Joel is stopped by Marlene, and she pleads with him that there's still a way to get out of here peacefully. And he also just shoots her in the gut, and she pleads to keep her alive, but he simply says, "You'll just come after her," and he executes her. On the way out of the city, Ellie wakes. She asks what happened, and Joel lies. He says,
"You were running some tests on you. And some others. The doctors, they couldn't make any of it work. They've stopped looking for a cure."
Joel and Ellie head back to Jackson, and the final scene is Joel and Ellie standing over Jackson, and Ellie stops him. She asks him to be honest with her, and she'll follow him no matter what. She asks him to swear on his story, and he does. This story ends on a lie, and that's the season, ladies and gents. Okay. Alright, let's talk about that ending. I fucking love this ending, both in the game and the show. It's an ending I think about often when thinking about the best endings of all time. It's tragic and beautiful. Beautiful in a way of seeing just how far a father would go for his child. And tragic because it's one of the most villainous actions of his character. I don't want to really say villainous, but I can't think of any other good word for what he did. Because I don't want to really think about it as good or bad here. The point isn't what's the good thing to do. That's not really the point to this ending. Joel was never a hero. He was never depicted as one. That's not the story. He's simply a father. That's the story here. That's what makes this ending so damn good. He isn't a good guy, and he's not supposed to be a good guy. He's not a morally right figure. He's not Spider-Man. That doesn't really exist here. Everyone is capable of good things, and everyone is capable of bad things. We are all gray characters at the end of the day. This isn't a hero story. It's a very human story. If I was in Joel's position, I couldn't promise I wouldn't do the same damn thing. There's people online that would definitely disagree with me, and that's completely fine. Disagree with me. But I think the vaccine is just damn near completely irrelevant to what this story is. All Joel cared about was the fact that Ellie was in danger, and these people were in his way. These people were trying to kill her. That was what was important there. But if we're bringing up morality, there is something to be said about the will of power. Joel refused to lose his daughter again. He fought for what he considered to be his world, not their world. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche argued that morality does have a will component, stating that moral values aren't just about outcomes, but also will of power. Joel isn't a superhero. He is a father who made a choice that any father should make in order to save their daughter. This story is one of my favorites of all time. It's insanely deep. Being that it was originally a video game, it proves that games can have beautiful stories. And when thinking about my own writing, I look back at things like The Last of Us. I look back at stories like The Last of Us. I think games like this give my generation a one-up in terms of writing, because we don't have those boomers playing these types of games, you know? But The Last of Us is one of the best stories ever written, in my opinion, and I've replayed that first game I think around like 3 to 4 times at this point. I highly recommend. Even if you're not into video games, I highly recommend playing The Last of Us. Even if it's your first video game, I highly recommend it. Anyways, gamers, we're going to be starting Season 2 very shortly. It's been a very fun journey going through this season again. I hope you've all enjoyed this series, and I'll see you all in Season 2. Goodbye.